The rise in new RTS games with co-op campaigns would make you think this was a new feature, but it's not. Co-op campaigns where two players work through structured missions together against the AI have existed since at least 2008. Sometimes it's baked in, sometimes it's an afterthought, but either way it's some of the best gaming experiences you can have. If, like me, you love RTS games but you don't like the idea of being humiliated by someone who's been playing since they were 12, co-op might be the way to go. Here's 5 of the best co-op RTS games you can play right now. Halo Wars 2 started life as a console RTS built for a controller and designed to be played whilst relaxing on the sofa. That shapes so much of how it plays. The base building is simplified and the unit roster is tight. The pace is faster than most PC RTS games because it was built for a console audience used to the frenetic pace of FPS and action games. I don't say that as a criticism. The strategic layer is still present, it works and it works well. It also has serious pedigree. The original Halo Wars was developed by Ensemble Studios, the same team responsible for Age of Empires. It was one of the few console RTS games that felt like it belonged on console. Halo Wars 2 came out of the blue in 2017 from the Total War devs' Creative Assembly. It picked up where the first game left off in terms of story and also in terms of what it was trying to do. The co-op campaign gives two players full control of the war together. Resources and unit cap are shared, forcing conversation and collaboration. Do whatever you want and you're going to struggle. Work together and it becomes one of the best RTS gaming experiences two friends can have. The feature that really stands out in Halo Wars 2 is the option to hand over units to your partner. One player can run the base, handling production, while the other takes the army forward. Units can be shifted between players as the situation develops. It's a clean division, a deliberate design decision, not something added as an afterthought. Halo Wars 2 is far from the deepest entry on the list, but it's accessible, runs well, and is one of the easiest places to start if you want to try co-op. Iron Harvest is one of those games that slipped under the radar and didn't get the attention it deserved. It came out in 2020 and is set in an alternate version of the early 20th century. The Great War was fought using massive diesel-powered mechs, and the world building built around that is impressive. The setting is grounded enough to feel familiar, but different enough to keep you interested. Iron Harvest plays like classic RTS. Think resource gathering, building construction, and unit production. If you played Company of Heroes, you'll feel right at home. Yet Iron Harvest has its own identity and its own rhythm. The mech units in particular give the game a scale that most RTS games can't match. The co-op campaign for Iron Harvest was baked in at launch, not sprinkled on top later. Two players share units and resources across the full campaign, which makes them dependent on each other. There's no clear separation of roles like with Halo Wars 2, you're in the same base with the same decisions to make, and if you don't coordinate you'll know it. Iron Harvest was developed by King Art, who are currently developing Dawn of War 4. The studio which built the co-op campaign into their first RTS from day one is now working on one of the most anticipated RTS games in year. That's relevant, and we'll come back to it. Dawn of War 2 is very different to anything else here, even more so than the game which was built for consoles first. In a departure from its predecessor, Dawn of War 2 dumped base building in favour of a more intimate experience. Instead of constructing buildings and collecting resources, you manage small squads of elite space marines across a campaign featuring RPG mechanics. Your squad leaders can be levelled up and equipped with different war gear. Dawn of War 2 is more tactics game than traditional RTS. The co-op campaign was there when it released in 2009. Two players split control of 4 squads. They take 2 each and work through the campaign missions together. Because the game stripped out the base building elements, everything comes down to what you have and how well you use it. The cover system is great, units have abilities, and how well you communicate with your partner makes a difference in how much you'll enjoy Dawn of War 2. With the second player handling 2 of your squads, the whole thing opens up in ways that the solo campaign doesn't. Executing flanking moves and coordinated attacks is far more satisfying when you're working with a friend. These are the mechanics that the game was designed around. Dawn of War 2 is also one of the best looking and best written RTS games of its time, and the Warhammer 40k license gives the whole thing a sense of consequence that a generic sci-fi skin would never be able to touch. You could argue that Dawn of War is not a conventional co-op RTS experience. It's better than that. StarCraft 2 is one of the most successful RTS games ever made, and that's not up for debate. It has dominated the esports scene for over a decade, has one of the best single player campaigns in RTS gaming, and still has a strong competitive multiplayer scene. In 2015, Blizzard introduced a standalone expansion pack, Legacy of the Void, which featured a series of co-op missions. It wasn't a co-op campaign in the traditional sense. StarCraft 2 wasn't developed with co-op in mind. There's no shared narrative you can work through from beginning to end. Instead, Blizzard gave players a series of standalone missions to play in 2 different modes. The first, Archon, never really took off and is eclipsed by the far superior Allied Commander mode. 2 players choose a commander each and play the selected missions side by side with shared objectives and separate armies. Archon had the friction of players controlling the same base and same units. Allied Commander removed that friction. There are 15 co-op missions. Some come directly from StarCraft 2 campaign, while others were built specifically for co-op. All of them are structured for 2 players. The maps are larger with wider choke points, and the enemy response is designed for 2 combined forces. Each map has both primary and secondary objectives. The primary decides success or failure, the secondary feeds into player progression and rewards. Enemy forces change between games, sometimes they'll be infantry focused, and the next might lean into air units. Additionally, weekly mutations change how the missions behave. The 15 maps might be limited, but the changes keep them fresh. By late 2019, StarCraft 2's co-op mode had eclipsed ladder and campaign. Blizzard responded to this by adding new commanders, mutations, and weekly challenges. Co-op received the largest share of development across all of StarCraft. The path of StarCraft 2 towards co-op impacted the wider genre. When the biggest RTS title finds that people would rather cooperate than compete, the other developers sit up and take notice. The rise in co-op RTS wasn't an accident. StarCraft 2 proved there was an audience for co-op, real-time strategy. That's the reason why it's on this list. It wasn't designed as a co-op game. The mode was added much later, but the ripples of success from StarCraft 2 co-op mode shaped the direction of the genre. If you're enjoying this video, hit the subscribe button. Critical Moves covers strategy gaming every week with news, new releases, retrospectives, and lists exactly like this one, plus a bloody brilliant podcast on a Friday. Hit that button. It helps tell YouTube that people are watching our stuff and helps grow the channel. Thanks very much. Red Alert 3 is the only game on this list where co-op is a requirement. Every mission across the 3 campaigns was built for 2 commanders. If you don't have a friend to play with, the game assigns you an AI-controlled ally. The maps, the missions, the objectives, and the enemy design all assume there are 2 bases and 2 sets of decisions being made. You can't play RA3 the way it was intended with just 1 person, and that's never been true of any other RTS before or since. Red Alert 3 is the 3rd entry in the Command & Conquer Red Alert series, and it's just as campy and irreverent as its predecessor. 3 factions, the Allies, the Soviets, and the new Empire of the Rising Sun, each had their own full co-op campaign, and the way it works is straightforward. 2 players share the map with their own base and resources, but with a shared objective. Each operates independently towards a common goal. This creates a natural division in roles. 1 player could build an air force while the other focuses on the ground war. 1 defends while the other attacks. The game doesn't tell you to do this, it just creates the conditions where doing so makes sense. If you play Red Alert 3 without a human partner, the experience is weaker than the games that came before it. The AI commander doesn't respond to what you're doing, doesn't support your attacks like a player would. It doesn't support your strategy, and of course cannot coordinate like another human. Some have argued that this contributed to the game's poor reception compared to Red Alert and Red Alert 2, and they're probably right. Red Alert 3 is so dependent on a second human player that it doesn't function well without one. Depending on how you look at it, that's either the most committed co-op design decision in the history of RTS games or a fundamental miscalculation. Red Alert 3 tops our list because of how it plays with another player, how co-op was meant to be played, not for how it performs without one. In the 17 years since release, no RTS game has made co-op as central to its design as Red Alert 3 did. We're now seeing developers build co-op into their games as a matter of course. Dawn of War 4, from the same people who made Iron Harvest, has committed to a fully cooperative campaign. We'll never see anything like Red Alert 3 again, but its legacy, and the legacy of StarCraft 2, Dawn of War 2, Iron Harvest and Halo Wars, is here to stay. This has been Critical Moves. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.